Every nail, every board, every home in America has a story, and many of those stories begin in the forests of Canada. Despite the US being a major energy and industrial producer, it still relies heavily on Canadian lumber to build its homes. But what happens when tariffs are slapped on these vital imports? In today's video, I explore how tariffs on Canadian lumber can send shockwaves through the US housing market, driving up construction costs and ultimately home prices. And with wildfires in California accelerating the need to rebuild, the stakes have never been higher. From the towering redwoods of Canada to the construction sites in post-fire California, I'll break down the journey of lumber and reveal how political decisions could affect the cost of your next home. Stay tuned as I uncover the hidden cost of these tariffs and what they mean for everyday Americans. The connection between Canadian lumber and US housing goes back decades. Canada is the world's leading exporter of softwood lumber, supplying nearly 30–50% of the lumber used in American construction. US builders depend on this steady flow of quality materials to frame new homes, repair damaged structures, and keep the housing market moving. The Softwood Lumber Agreement have helped manage disputes over pricing and subsidies between the two countries. However, recent policy shifts and tariff proposals, such as those under President Trump's second term, threaten to disrupt this balance. Tariffs on lumber have already led to price hikes in previous cycles, and analysts warn that renewed tariffs could drive prices even higher. Tariffs work like a tax on raw materials, an industry expert explains. When importers face a 25% duty on Canadian lumber, those costs eventually filter down to home buyers. This isn't just about abstract price changes, it's about concrete numbers that determine how much you pay for a new home. And as I'll see, these tariffs have far-reaching implications in a housing market already strained by natural disasters and supply shortages. In recent years, California has faced devastating wildfires that have destroyed thousands of homes and left entire communities in ruins. The urgent need to rebuild these neighborhoods has spiked demand for construction materials, especially lumber. However, if tariffs on Canadian lumber are imposed or increased, the cost of these materials could soar, making rebuilding significantly more expensive. Consider this: US construction firms already reported that when tariffs on Canadian lumber were raised in the past, lumber futures spiked by as much as 15%, leading to higher costs for builders and, eventually, home buyers. With California's housing market under additional pressure due to wildfire-related losses, any increase in lumber prices can have a domino effect on the cost of constructing or repairing homes. This means that families, already reeling from the loss of their homes, face the double burden of emotional loss and financial strain. As builders are forced to raise bids to cover material costs, the entire housing market may see an upward shift in home prices, making affordability a growing concern. When tariffs increase the cost of lumber, the impact isn't confined to the construction site. It reverberates through the entire housing market. Higher building material costs mean that home builders have to either absorb the expenses, squeezing their profit margins, or pass them on to consumers in the form of higher home prices. Experts estimate that tariffs on lumber could add tens of thousands of dollars to the cost of a single-family home. In a market where many first-time buyers are already struggling with mortgage rates near 7%, even a modest increase in home prices can push affordability out of reach for a large segment of the population. Tariffs act as a hidden tax on every new home built, explains a housing economist from Reuters. When the cost of lumber goes up, that extra cost is built into every dollar you borrow to buy a house. And it doesn't stop there. With California's wildfires reducing the supply of existing homes, the market is already tight. Higher construction costs mean fewer homes will be built, further driving up prices. It's a self-reinforcing cycle that could lead to an even more severe housing affordability crisis. The effects of these tariffs extend beyond immediate price hikes. They influence long-term trends in both the construction and housing markets. US policymakers and industry leaders warn that sustained high tariffs on Canadian lumber could discourage investment in domestic production. With the US lumber market already grappling with labor shortages and supply chain issues, the added pressure of expensive imports could slow overall production. Moreover, these tariffs could force builders to look for alternative sources of lumber, options that may be less efficient or more expensive. That means even as domestic policies aim to stimulate housing growth, the cost structure could become less competitive, affecting everything from new construction projects to the pace of rebuilding after natural disasters. Every percentage point increase in lumber cost can translate to a multi-thousand-dollar hike in home prices, says an analyst from NAHB. Looking ahead, the challenge for both governments and industry stakeholders will be to negotiate a balance. Can trade disputes be resolved without undermining the critical supply chain that supports American housing? Or will political brinkmanship push housing prices to levels that make homeownership a distant dream for many? Some policy experts suggest that a renegotiated trade agreement could mitigate the worst of the impact by establishing clearer guidelines and lower tariffs on essential building materials. Meanwhile, investments in domestic production and innovations in sustainable forestry could gradually reduce U.S. reliance on imported lumber. However, these solutions will take time, and in the meantime, American consumers may face a significantly steeper cost of living. In the end, the imposition of tariffs on Canadian lumber is more than a trade policy. It's a hidden tax that could reshape the American housing market. As builders face rising material costs and consumers confront higher home prices, the true cost of these tariffs will be felt in every brick laid and every board nailed. What do you think? Will these tariffs make home ownership even more out of reach? Or can policymakers strike a balance to keep our housing market stable? Thanks for watching my deep dive into how tariffs on Canadian lumber could drive up US housing prices. I invite you to join the conversation in the comments below. Your thoughts matter. Don't forget to subscribe for more analysis on the economic issues shaping our lives. Stay informed and see you in the next video.